Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 226 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to begin talking about financial topics, financial ideas that we should be teaching our kids. And I'm going to go through one different idea every single day of this week. And the big motivation behind me doing this is, and I've told you guys before, that my wife is expecting a baby this week. Me and my wife are expecting our first son. And I just think that it would be a really good exercise to talk about some things that we should teach our children about money. And I'm pre-recording these for you guys, so this is before the actual due date. But I am letting you guys know that some of the information that you're going to get this week is going to be so invaluable as far as how you can teach your children how to use money, how they should think about money, and then exactly how you should have your kids think about the money that you have and the money that they can grow for themselves over the long term. So stay tuned for that and more throughout the course of this week. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Then just message me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and tell me that you want help with financial coaching sessions, and we can set one up and we can talk about your financial goals, and we can start pushing towards those financial goals and ultimately financial freedom and financial independence. So I think at the baseline, there's just a couple things that we need to know about money. Right? And those things need to be relayed well to our children. If we want our children to be good managers of money, then we need to relay those messages to them. Now, the biggest thing that we can do is to model the things that we want our children to know, right? It's great to tell them, but we need to show them that what you're saying is the case. Now, it's perfectly fine to give some lectures and tell some things to your children that need to be said, right? But if you're not showing it in your own life, it's going to be hard for you to relay it to your child that it's important to do something, right? They say more is caught than taught, meaning children are more likely to see what you're doing and emulate that thing that you're doing than they are to listen to you talk about doing something and do that thing without observing you actually living it out in your own life. Okay, so the first thing that we need to think about when we're thinking about money is exactly what money is and what it can be used for. Right. So today's topic, today's idea is going to be that we need to teach our children what money is and what money can be used for. Okay. I think that's extremely vital because money is kind of a weird topic, right? If you know very little about it, then it's going to be kind of weird to talk about, right? I don't think a lot of us talked about money as children. If you had parents that talked about money with you, then fantastic. But I know that for the most part, I didn't learn way too much about money as a child, right? You knew that you could work and make it, and then you could spend it on stuff. But that's about all I knew about money and exactly how money works. So when we start talking about how money works and we start talking about exactly, what you should do with your money, what you should teach your children about money, we need to start in this place of understanding money in the first place and then understanding how money can be used. Okay. So let's just start in, the baseline. We need to teach our children what money is. Okay. We need to teach our children that money is a tool. Okay. Money is a tool that can be used for the purchasing of goods and services. It can be used for helping others. It can be used for growing your money for the future, right? It can be used to make your future self more wealthy. It can be used to make your future brighter financially than it is today. Those are the three big uses, right? And those three big uses are giving, saving, and spending, right? Or saving and investing and spending, right? Those are the three things that you can actually use money for, right? Those are our uses of money we've talked about many times over. But what money is, we haven't really talked about far too much. But yes, money is only a tool. Money is only something that can be used for certain reasons, right? Money is not something that we should idolize. Money is not something that we should think of as the end-all be-all goal of life. And I think some people actually do think of money as the end-all be-all goal of life, just to get the most money that you can have and leave as much money behind to your children and your grandchildren as you can, which some of those things are admirable goals. It's admirable to want to make a good living, and it's admirable to want to leave money behind to your children and your grandchildren. But it's not necessarily admirable to do so in lieu of other things that are very important in life. I think it's important for your children to know that money isn't everything, right? Yes, money is important and money has to be used. Money is something that is inextricably tied to our lives. We cannot untie money from our lives and the way that we choose to live. We have to have an honest, healthy view of money, okay? But money is not the last thing when it comes down to it. Nobody ever said, hey, I wish that I, made more money, or I wish I worked more hours, or I wish I saved more on their deathbed. No, on their deathbed, it's all about relationships and time that they spent with people and things, experiences that they wish that they had done, right? And those things can be accomplished. Obviously, some of those things with money can be enhanced, but those things can be accomplished. Without a ton of money, right? You can have great relationships and a very fulfilling life, and a life that is going to be, something that you look back on with a lot of pride, even if you don't do the absolute best things with your money. But if you want to enhance those things, yes, money can be a useful tool by which to do so, right? And money can get you into different situations in your life. Money can be used in order to put yourself in different situations. It can be used to allow you to do things recreationally that you want to do that you were never able to do. It can allow you to live places that maybe you never thought you could live. Money can allow you to do that, right? Money can allow you to purchase things that you may not have thought were possible to purchase when you were younger, or when you didn't have as much money, right? Money is simply a tool, and it's all about how we use it. And when it comes down to it, money and the reason for money in the first place, right, is based on our behaviors, right? Because what happened a long, long, long time ago is that people were trying to figure out, okay, I'm trying to sustain myself. I'm trying to do things for myself. I'm trying to, create a life for myself. And so I'm having to farm crops. I'm having to hunt animals. I'm having to do these different chores around the village or around my home or whatever, right? I'm having to do all these things. I'm having to raise children. I'm having to do a bunch of different things in my life just in order to get the essential things I need. I'm having to make my own clothing. I'm having to just do everything from scratch. And all of a sudden, there was this idea, right? This idea of, well, if I can't do this, right, or it's not as efficient for me to do this, maybe there should be somebody who is designated to do this thing, and I can trade something that I'm really good at with that person, right? So if I'm really good at growing crops, maybe I trade some of my crops with this person who makes clothing, and we have an honest trade, right? And we have a fair trade. That way, that person can be sustained in their crops, and I can be sustained in my clothing, and then we can both be sustained in our strengths, right? Well, what that turned into was it turned from what that's known as a barter system. It turned into a monetary system, right? And eventually we get to the point where we are exchanging not items for items, because that's not the most perfect way that you can exchange, right? Because eventually what you're going to realize is that somebody's getting the better end of a deal than somebody else, just based on value and just based on sustainability purposes. So what do? You end up coming up with this monetary system where you can sell what you have for some amount of money, right? And now we're all the way back down to paper money, and I'm not gonna get into fiat money and the gold standard and all that kind of stuff, right? But just on a baseline, right? We bartered in order to make our lives easier, and now we worked our way all the way down to the system where we trade money for the things that'll make our lives easier. Okay, and now we can take our money and we can grow our money, and we can invest our money, we can save our money, and we can give our money to other people, and we can use our money to spend on things that we want to spend our money on, right? But money can be something where it leads us astray. It leads us somewhere else, because money is powerful, because money can allow you to do all those things. It can allow you to purchase things that you want to purchase, right? So money can buy things that you can idolize, therefore you can idolize money, right? So money is something that is powerful. It is something that is useful, right? But it is also something that we can turn out to idolize. And that's what we want to refrain from. Right. And we want to teach our children that even though money is a very big part of our lives and we have to have it and we have to use it, right, we cannot idolize it. We can't view it as something that is to be worshiped or something that we are to attain at all costs. Right. The only thing that I am willing to attain at all costs is my salvation through Jesus Christ. And that's it. Right. That is the only thing that's worth attaining at all costs, right? It's not worth trying to attain money at all costs because money will be left behind. And that's something else we have to teach our children, that yes, money is great, but eventually you die, okay? Eventually you're gone and money doesn't go with you, okay? So the life that you live, even though it can be enhanced by money, right? When you're gone, you can't take the money with you. And so you can't make money the biggest thing in your life, and you cannot idolize it as number one, or else it will eventually come back to bite you. Okay, so that is what money is and how I think we should communicate it to our children. Now, obviously age appropriate, make things as honest and as truthful as you can while still being as sensitive to the age range that you're talking to as well. But still, those honest truths have to be spoken, that money is a tool, money is useful, but money can be dangerous. Money can be something that we end up idolizing, okay? But when we talk about the uses of money, how we can use money, again, we can give it, we can save it, we can spend it. Not specifically in that order, but we need to be doing all three at all times. We need to make this clear to our children that in order to live a balanced financial life, and in order to live a financial life that is successful, you need to be doing all three. Because without any of those three things, right, then what you end up with is you end up with imbalances, and you end up with an unhealthy view of money one way or the other. Okay, so let's talk first about spending, right? What do we spend money on? We can spend money on a number of things. First of all, we can spend money at the baseline on our bills. Right, we all have bills to pay. We all, have to cover lights and water and our housing and all these different things. We have to pay our bills, and money is the way that we do that. Right, we have a certain amount of money that we exchange for living in a home, or we have a certain amount of money that we exchange for eating a certain amount of food or for keeping the lights on, right? That is a use of our money. But other ways that we can go about spending our money are far more frivolous. And when I say spending, a lot of you guys may think, okay, spending in the form of frivolous spending and spending money on things that you want instead of what you need. But of course, you can spend money on needs, and you should spend money on needs. And we have to make that distinction with our children too when we're talking about the uses of money, that there are needs, there are things that we have to have that will sustain us, that we need in order to live, we need in order to survive, we need in order to live in society, right? There are those needs, and then there are wants. There are things that look pretty, or things that taste really good, right? Foods that taste really good, or whatever it may be, right? We have things that are fun to play with. We have things that are nice and expensive, but those are not things that we have to have, right? They are okay to buy if you have the money to buy them, but they are not necessary to our lives. Okay, so even though we have needs and wants, we need to focus on our needs, and then we can move to wants if we have enough money in order to prioritize some of those wants as well. So we have wants and we have needs, okay, and both of those fall into our spending. So not only can we purchase food and lights and water and housing, right? But we can also purchase the things that are a little more frivolous, right? If you want the new iPhone and you can go out and buy it, then you buy a new iPhone. If you want an Apple Watch, that's something you can buy. If you want a subscription to Netflix, that's something that you can spend money on, right? If you want a new car, that's something you can spend money on. See, all of these different areas, right, they are spending. And the spending portion seems like a very large portion of what we do, and undoubtedly it is. But in order to live a financial life that gets you to financial freedom over the long term, what we need to communicate well to our children is that even though I can spend money on a lot of things, and I can make money and spend it, right, that money that I make can't all go towards spending, right? Yes, I'm working hard for this money, but this money doesn't just go towards today. This money has to cover both today and then some days in the future and some things in the future. And so I can't just blow everything that I have today. Not only can I not blow everything that I have today, I shouldn't blow everything that I have today, and I shouldn't just think about myself when I get whatever I get from working the amount of time that I work. Because a big part of what we should be teaching our children when we're talking about these uses of money, what money is, right, is where money comes from. Money does come from work. Right? We get money from working, from doing something, providing some good or service, and getting paid in return. Right? So they have to know that they have to value their work in a certain way. And you don't want all of your work to just go towards things that are going to go away eventually, right? You want your work to be sustainable and to provide for you in a longer term sense. And you want your work to be valuable to you and not just something that you get a check from and that you spend every dollar that you have, okay? So we want to communicate to our children, right, that when we get a check, yes, we are going to spend money on things, and some of those things are necessary and they're bills, and some of those things may be wants if we have enough money, right? But we also need to be saving and giving in some proportion of our income at every single point in time when we're working through some type of financial plan, right? So we need to save money. Now, obviously with children, you can keep it really, really simple early, right? And you can just say, put this money in a piggy bank, or, I don't even know if piggy banks are still a thing, but put them in a checking account for your child, that you're the custodian of, and you're telling them that any money that they bring in, that they have to save some of it. They have to put some of it away for the future in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be in the form of investments, right? It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And it just has to be money that accumulates and that is put away for the future for your child, right? This is a good way of showing them that saving money is a part of the normal cycle of you receiving money and spending money, and then you also save it, right? But on top of just putting money away, right, they need to know that you have the ability to invest money. And I'm going to talk to you tomorrow about saving and investing and how we should talk to our children about the differences in saving and investing, okay? But we need to tell them that investing is important too, and that growing our money for the future is important too. Because if we don't put away money for ourselves, then nobody else will. And eventually, we're either going to be not wanting to work anymore, or we're not going to be able to work anymore. And in either case, we're going to need money to sustain us, right? Because money is a tool that we use to sustain our lifestyle, okay? And so if we use our money in a specific way, right, then we need enough money to use the money in that way. Then we need enough money to live in that specific way. And that money is only going to come from either me working or the income that is created from the investing that I do. Okay, so you need to make clear to your children that putting away money for the future, for any emergencies that may occur in the shorter term, is absolutely vital. Putting money away for the future, for your retirement, for their kids' college, for their own college, right? That's something that I think is really big, and some parents miss the boat on this, is that don't think that your kids can't put in something towards some of the major things that you're saving and investing for in their life. Give them some skin in the game, and they will be more truly invested in what is going on, right? And so have them, if they make some money mowing yards, or their grandparents give them money, or their great grandparents give them money, or something, right? They come across money some way, somehow, that they take some of that money and they do save it, and they do put it towards some future goal. And then when that future goal is actually met, obviously by you and them, right, then they can have some pride in saying, I did this. I, at least in part, helped to do this thing. I helped to purchase this car. I helped to pay to go to college for myself, right? This is something that is valuable, and children will notice the value of money. They'll notice the value of good money management when they can actually have some skin in the game. And investing and saving is one of the best places where you can put that to work, because again, we're trying to teach them the delayed gratification, the saving, the investing portion of the uses of money. And if we're teaching that, right, then they need to see the gratification eventually. Okay. And when they see that gratification, they'll go, oh, okay, this is why I put in all that work over time. This is why I did all these things for myself over time. And then once they've actually done that and they see the payoff, then they'll be willing and able and likely to actually put the money away for themselves as they get older. Okay, so that's a very, very big thing. So the saving portion is huge. And then obviously you need to make it clear that emergencies do happen. And if you don't have money in an emergency, then you have to go into debt and explain what debt is. And we'll talk about debt later this week as well. But we need to know that saving and investing are uses of money, and we need to know what saving and investing actually are. And again, in tomorrow's episode, I will talk more about making that distinction with your children. Then we need to talk with them about the last use of money. And the last use of money is giving, okay? And a lot of people don't give any of their income, or they give a very, very small proportion of their income. Now, I am not saying you need to give to any specific thing or any specific person in any way, shape, or form. I am not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is that giving makes you better, right? Because if we're talking about where money comes from, what we can use money for, ultimately, right, the money that you have is made by you working, right? And how are you able to work? You're able to work from the skills and abilities that God gave you, right? So you are managing God's money. You are managing what God is allowing you to do for him. And this is something we need to make clear to our children, is that our money is not just ours. We can't just be closed-handed with the money that we have, because that is not what's best for us. That is not what the healthiest use of money is. The healthiest use of money is to be open-handed. It is to give money to things that you believe in. It is to give money to help others. It is to give money to be just an open-handed, helpful, nice person, right? And it will trickle down into other parts of your life, and it will trickle down into other parts of your finances as well. And a lot of people say, oh, well, we don't really believe that you should give any of your money. That's not very smart. We don't think that's just wasteful. Well, I promise you, right? Believe in God or don't. That's not what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying is that you are at your absolute best, right? You are at your absolute best financially. You're at your absolute best morally even, right? When you are giving money to others, when you are being open-handed with what you have, right? And you will reap the benefits of being open-handed with your money, okay? And I'm not saying that we should give money to expect more. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that is when we're at our best, and we can do it, right? It is possible to give money. People say, oh, well, our budget's too tight. We can't give anything. It's not possible. Well, maybe your budget is so tight, and this is typically the case. Your budget's so tight because you have a bunch of debt, and your budget's so tight because, your husband or wife went out and bought a $50,000 new vehicle that they've got payments on, or you own a house that's too big, or you're in a bunch of student loan debt, or you have a bunch of medical debt, or you've run up credit cards or whatever, right? That tends to be the reason that people can't give, not because they are, in a place where their budget is actually that tight. And then not only that, they're willing to make their budget tighter, right? And doing the optional things they want to do in order to give less, right? And we need to break this stigma with our children. We need to tell our children that giving is important. Show your children that giving is important. Show your children the impact that giving can have. Because we all talk about, wanting to do the best for others, and, we should help the poor, and we should do all this for, people who have it worse than we do. We should help. But very rarely are we willing to put our money where our mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is for your kids. Show them how you use your money in this way, right? And they will be more likely to use their money, to manage their money in the way that is going to benefit them most over the long term. Again, this is not a religious judgment. It's not a moral judgment. It is simply a judgment of, this is the best thing that you can do, right? This is how you are at your best when you are managing your money. If you're doing it in an unselfish way, and you're doing it in a way that will help others as well, that is when you're at your best with money. So you should allocate some amount of what your children have as they make money or whatever. Have them give some of that money to something that they believe that they should be giving it in, whether it's a local church or some person specifically, right? Actually making an impact in somebody's life or an organization that you believe wholeheartedly in, right? So I'm not going to jump too far into the whole giving thing, but you need to be giving, and you need to teach your children to do so. And I promise you this, they are far more likely to think that it's normal and something that you should do if they see you doing it. And same thing goes with saving and investing. Everybody spends. You see everybody spend money. Rich, poor, in between. Everybody spends money. Now, is it on different levels? Of course it's on different levels, right? But if your children only see the spending, and they don't ever see that you save, and they don't ever see that you invest, and they don't ever see that you give money to other people, then they're not going to have a baseline as to how to do those things themselves, right? If they see that you idolize money, then guess what they're likely to do? They are likely to idolize money as well. If they see that you're willing to do anything for another dollar, and you're willing to not spend time with them in order to make more money, right? And that's just your driving force is money. Then guess what their driving force is likely to be? It's likely to be money. Okay, so don't just let everything be driven by this idea of money and by these uses of money, right? You need to illustrate for your children and show and emulate the lifestyle that you think should be lived with someone's money. And guess what? If you live it out, they will see it, they will know it. And if you're very intentional about explaining to them exactly what you're doing, and again, age appropriate, and again, you don't have to go as in depth as I go with you guys every single day. But what I'm saying is, if you don't do it, if you don't make very clear that these topics are so important, and you don't make very clear that you can only do 3 things with money and you should be doing all 3, right? There's nothing wrong with enjoying your money. You should be putting money away for your future, and you should be helping out others with your money, right? If they're not doing all 3, or you aren't doing all 3, right, then you're probably missing the boat. All right. So you need to make sure that that is very clear in their mind, exactly what money is, how we can use it. And then you can move into more minutia, because if they don't get these things, if they don't get these very simple, basic money topics, then when they move into another phase where they're having to make more money decisions for themselves, right, they're going to take a lot of pain. They're going to make a lot of money decisions that are not good decisions. And that's the last thing that I want. And that's why I want to help you guys teach your children how to use money, how to think about money, how to spend, how to save, how to give, all these different types of things, right? I want your children to be good at it, because if your children are good at it, then guess what? The money that you make and the wealth that you amass and the things that you do in order to make your family tree more financially free, right, will not go to waste. If you teach your children how to properly manage money, then your money will not go to waste when you ultimately leave some of it behind to them, right? You have to remember this, that it's not just about you and yours, right? It's not just about you and your money and then just leave it behind to them. If you left a caveman a computer, the caveman wouldn't know what to do with the computer. You have to teach somebody how to use something, right? And so if you leave your kids money and they don't know anything about money, then they're not going to know what to do with it, and they're going to blow it, and your work will have been in vain. Like I said earlier, when you're gone, your money can go very quickly, and obviously you can't use it anymore, right? But you need to make sure that if you want them to use it in a specific way, or you want them to be able to thrive because of it, that you teach them the proper ways to do that. You teach them what money is, you teach them the proper uses of money, and then you'll be able to move forward with some more confidence that your children will be able to do the things that you want them to do when you are gone, and you'll trust that as they grow and as they're older, that they will make good money decisions, and you won't have to constantly help them out with money, and you won't constantly have to hover over whatever they're doing, right? Them being good with money is going to help you. Trust me, at some point, them being good with money is going to help you, because them being good with money is going to decrease the burden on you of them being bad with money. Okay, so trust me when I say these things are very important. Make the uses of money known to your children, especially, really, you can start uses of money as early as possible, and exactly what money is quite early as well, and start allocating money in those different ways, building those financial muscles with your children, right? And then once those financial muscles are built, they kind of go into autopilot. If you've ever seen this in your own financial life, you'll see that things kind of go into autopilot. You know how you are going to allocate your money in specific ways. Yes, new things pop up and you have to make adjustments, right? But you can kind of go into autopilot because those muscles are built up. up because you're used to the weight of giving money, the weight of investing heavily or saving money, right? You're used to the things that you regularly spend money on, right? You know yourself, you know your financial habits, and that's what you want for your children as well, because then they'll build those habits, and those habits will sustain over the long term in many, many cases. So hopefully this helps you. This first topic on what to teach your children about money, how to teach your children about money, and hopefully as you teach them as they grow, that you can all become a more cohesive group, and you can have more continuity of mind when it comes to how to use money in your household. And I will implore you stick around for the second part of teaching your kids how to use money, teaching your kids what money is, teaching your kids about money in tomorrow's episode. And I think it's going to be a really, really good one. I'm going to talk about saving and investing and the differences, right? Because very often we weren't even told what the differences between saving and investing were. I didn't really know what investing was for a long, long time, right? You have to teach yourself in many cases, but if you can teach your children early, it can make all the difference in their long-term financial life. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just message me on any of the major social media sites that I'm on at MNO with Dylan and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions, and we can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals and ultimately pushing you towards financial freedom, which is my goal for everyone who is watching or listening to this show, that you would reach some level of long-term financial freedom. So tune in tomorrow as I continue talking about topics specifically surrounding teaching your children about money. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.